Hello, Be Awesome at Facility Management podcast listeners, viewers, subscribers, and live attendees. It has been more than a minute since our last episode that Paul and I have been together, but we've talked, I think, every day. So you're about to get into episode 31, which we're really excited to introduce our guests. But before we do, people were asking, Paul, our last podcast, you were in Hurricaneville and big waves, and people were asking, did Paul get washed away? What went on? Where is he? Where in the world is Paul? So what's been up the last month and a half?
I got to tell you, I've never met a group of people that are so calm in a disaster than the people in Key West.
Yeah.
It was like, the wind started kicking up, and we were in that conference center, and everyone showed up for work. They're feeding us our breakfast. They're bringing us lunch. The music is playing, and trees are like blowing by the windows. I said, this feels something like I would guess being on the Titanic.
Yeah.
It was like that the place is going down, but everybody was happy, and they were feeding us, and we were eating, and everywhere we went, we were welcomed. Places with no power, bars that had no power were still serving. They just apologized because we had to pay cash.
Yeah, you got to drink. You're gonna have to drink warm beer if you don't drink it fast.
Yeah, I mean, people walking in with their shoes over their shoulder and wet up to their knees. But you had to like hide behind the buildings and run from block to block if you were, going in the windy section of the city. But it was an amazing experience. It's something that I've never experienced in my life. Along with Tornado Ann, when I came home.
Yeah.
She was not happy with my decision to stay and ride out the storm, but I survived.
Also known as Wife Ann. Yes,
my wife Ann.
Yeah. No, I tell you, I've had a couple of people that have stayed at the resort that we were at, which was destroyed. I mean, it was a mess.
Yeah.
The pool looked like it was part of the ocean, and there was just a lot of destruction and damage. And I've seen people that have stayed there in the last couple of weeks, and it's as if nothing happened. I mean, the speed at which they were able to clean up, pick up, and get back into business was nothing short of extraordinary. So, well, welcome back. Glad you didn't get washed out to sea. Now, our guest today, I'm really excited. I don't know. It was probably about a month ago. There was a post about our podcast or something, and this person I've never met before said, "Hey, I'm listening to your podcast. I'm starting my own too." And I connected with him. And he released his first episode and published it, talked about it on LinkedIn. And I listened to the podcast, and I literally just decided that this seemed like a guy that has his contact information on LinkedIn. And sure enough, he's got his cell phone on LinkedIn. So I dialed it and said, Burke, you knocked it out of the park on your episode. You're going places with this podcast. I'd love to have you on an episode. This was just a couple of weeks ago. So welcome, Burke Jones, Facility Director of Derby Public Schools in Kansas, and the creator and host of Facility and Operations with Burke Jones podcast. And we're going to dig into both of those. But first and foremost, thanks for making some time with us here today, and appreciate you coming on with us.
Hey, man, thanks for inviting me. This is exciting.
Yeah, we're gonna dig right in, Burke, because I'm curious, because when you and I spoke for a couple minutes today, I got to be honest with you, I didn't really look at a lot of your history. But you had made a comment on our call where you said I came on into Derby in 2019, and I figured you came on to other schools and other places. But Derby is your first. Is it your first go at a public school, or your second go at a public school?
Yeah, first go.
Yeah. So you were the private sector for a long time, and then you decided to get into public sector facility. So tell us first why you did that, why you made that decision, and then I'd love to hear a bit about your district.
Sure. So I spent like the first 26 years of my career as an architect. I was involved with a lot of school work over those years. We did quite a few bond issue projects and that kind of thing for districts around Kansas. Honestly, I reached a point, I'm in my early 50s, and I was like, I don't want to play this game for another 15 to however many years I've got left of the working career. And so kind of started looking at what else was out there, and I saw this opportunity become available, and I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. And It's been a fantastic fit. I can't imagine doing anything else. This is the best job in the world, and it's been a really great move. Just a little bit more. So when I first started, we were about 2 years. The district was about 2 years into about a 5-year, $114 million bond issue set of projects. Basically 3 new elementary schools, lots of additions and remodels, brand new stadium, brand new administrative center that only happens, once every 100 years. World-class facilities, definitely. And so when I first started the job, that stuff was like, I dove right into that as like the owner's rep and that whole side because I understood it really well. And so the first couple of years, I just sat back and watched my department really. And I think it worked better because I could learn what my new job was by watching and by slowly coming along. So the bond issue work's pretty much wrapped up. So I'm knee deep in everything having to do with our operations and facilities. So my department includes transportation, food service, custodial maintenance, and grounds. And so I have a supervisor for each one of those departments, thankfully, that are very skilled leaders and know their individual departments really well. So that makes life fun and easy.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, listening to your podcast, you're now released episode 3. I had no idea that this was this is not, I mean, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. We don't see people in their 50s leave private sector and come into public sector. I mean,
No.
He's got a long ways to go to get his pension. Like, and he came in just before COVID. So, I mean, you talk about throwing, right into the fire.
Yeah, I mean, you must have got tired of working for people that had money and budgets and money to spend. So, like, let's have a challenge, right?
Yeah.
The good thing about architecture is that you work with clients that have money. It doesn't necessarily mean it all trickles down to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the timing is absolutely amazing. We just came back from our Mass Facilities Administrators Conference in Worcester, Mass. And I was tasked by our executive director to work with 4 architects because we've decided that it's time that the architects and the facilities managers collaborate on these projects instead of being on opposite sides of the fence. And you have done it in one person. That's collaboration. Not many people can do that.
Yeah.
But it's the story goes that back in 2010, Ken and I started a talk called Wish You Had Asked. And we were directing it right to architects and engineers that design schools saying, we wish you had asked us for input because we're the ones that have to live with it.
Right.
Once it's built. And I have pictures of, the beautiful stainless steel centerfold paper towel dispenser that's flush in the wall. And then once everybody left, we mounted the rolled paper towel dispenser right on top of it, drilled right through the stainless steel because we don't use centerfold towels here in our schools. And those are questions that weren't getting asked back then. And here we are 12 years later, and we've come a long way. We're at the table. We're working together with the architects because they don't want to leave a product behind that we can't live with.
Right.
And I don't know how your thoughts on that and how it works with you, but you've seen it from both sides now.
When I was an architect, I thought everything worked perfectly when the project was built.
Yeah, it does until you leave.
Yeah, it's not true. There's a lot that the owner has to take on at the end that nobody ever told us as architects what that transition looked like from the owner's side. And I know, like, we still have buildings that don't have enough custodial, spaces. We still have some weird things that happened. It wasn't all perfect, but I think it definitely helped when we were designing projects that I knew what the architects were trying to do.
Yep.
But also from our side of the table, the gentleman that had my job before was smart and really instilled some standards. So because we were going to touch so many buildings, so we have a standard roof system that we use now. Standardize a lot of the paper towel type dispensers and all of that kind of thing. Standard hardware set. So for doors, So that made the job a lot easier because a lot of those decisions had already been made. But yeah, it was really fun sitting on the other side of the table and working with, and I knew the architects that we were working with from my previous career, so it was fun,
Great.
a good time.
So-
We used construction manager at risk
Yeah.
process for that, and that was a very, very good experience.
Yeah. And you say, when you say you develop standards, I'm not sure what it's like in Kansas, but in Massachusetts, they love to throw obstacles at us when we're building. And first of all, we have to choose the low bidder on the project, and we cannot sole source items or systems
Right.
unless we get a vote of our town council. There has to be committees and we put together a sole source package, because I don't want to build a new school and if I have 22 other schools that have Johnson controls, and I
Right.
don't want to build a new one with a different, control package. So
Right.
I don't know if you guys run into that in Kansas, and what, how much difference there is from Mass and there.
To a certain degree, we did. What's interesting is that by using CM at risk, it eliminates some of that.
Yeah.
Because we can take the best value bid, not necessarily the lowest bid. And so
Okay.
the construction manager still bids everything, but we have more flexibility in what we decide at the outcome of who's going to be picked.
Right. But do you find that the construction manager, I mean, the more money he make, the more the money is the money. So the less product, I hate to make it sound so devious, but if he doesn't put in a Von Duprin door hardware and puts in a cheaper product, he makes more money because his number was still there up high.
Actually, with CM at risk, that's not the case. So with CM at risk, you negotiate their fee as a percentage up front. So then they come in with a guaranteed maximum. After they bid it, they come with a guaranteed maximum price. If it comes in less than that, the way our contract was written, that money was returned to us.
Oh, okay.
Some places do it as a split or something like that, but all the money came back to us and their fee was adjusted accordingly. I think it's the best of both worlds, but clearly there's a reason that the contractors want to do construction management at risk versus bidding, hard bidding projects. And there's lots of reasons. One is you're not fighting over change orders the whole time, which is a big benefit. But it gives them a lot more control over the project as well. So there's clearly money to be made there, or no one would do CM at risk.
Right. Are you a union state? We're big in union here. Okay.
Yeah, we're not.
We have to pay prevailing wage, and that causes problems with a lot of shops, and it eliminates so many contractors, good contractors, from being, wanting to bid.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're not.
Yeah, I just did a podcast, Paul, on my Show Me Mo Missouri School Plant Managers channel on CM at risk, and it's really we're gonna have more episodes about it. But Springfield, Missouri, they've done a number of projects, and they actually had one where they got I think it was $1 million back at the end of the project. Which it's a set, it's a number, it's set, and there's definitely a pad there, and then whatever it is that comes out at the end, they end up with a possible return. Doesn't always happen, but and there's more RFPs that go out. So they're sending out the who's going to lay the pad or the foundation. They can do it. They do the bid on that first, and then they can do it out of piecework, opposed to just one blanket RFP with everything. It's pretty interesting. I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't know that it's nationwide. I thought it was just area wide, but it's something that's accepted nationwide.
So I know in Kansas they passed a law. I don't know when it was. I'll say in the last 10 years that allowed CM at risk to happen. And there's a whole process that you have to go through with the state on the selection of that contractor and everything. So it was something that the contractors lobbied for to get approved and get away from the hard bid, design bid build model.
Well, it's been private sector approved for a long time. Missouri, we've been approved for schools and government in Missouri in 2017, I think it was. So it's relatively new in a lot of places, but it's being pretty widely adopted, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it in Massachusetts, but then again, I haven't asked the question, so I don't know how widely used it is. But that's great. And so you've been a facility director for 2019. You come in, and then COVID hits, and
Yeah.
you're a year into this.
I was
At any point
6 months into it when the country shut down.
where you're like, what the hell was I thinking?
As an architect, you can work from home, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our administration, we worked from home for 2 weeks, and then we're like, this isn't working. So the core team, we came back to work, and I don't know what your guys' experience was, but those 3 months we worked more hours than I've worked in a long time,
Yeah.
and just endless Zoom meetings and planning. And our schools, we reopened, fully reopened the fall of 2020, on
Wow.
time. We did take off that year between Thanksgiving and Christmas because we were tracking numbers, and we were reaching a point where there was just too many people sick.
Mhm.
And so we took kind of that month off and did remote, and then came back, and we've been in session since then. So
Wow.
So
it worked well.
have you made any adjustments for these holidays coming up, or is it done? We're over it.
I think pretty much like everywhere else. Like, I don't know where you guys live, but in Kansas, we're over it.
Yeah.
What I would
Not
say.
so much here, I don't think. I'm working in a district. I was there yesterday, and they're not going back to school until Tuesday of next week. They're off a half a day Wednesday, and not going through to Tuesday because they're going with last year's numbers, and Thanksgiving was a big surge for them.
Right.
So they're not. It's not to do any sort of deep cleaning or anything additional. No. It's just to wait and see.
More
people have symptoms.
People are traveling. People are going out with family and gathering.
I'll tell you what I'm hearing. All I'm hearing about is RSV. That's what's taking over for our kids. Is like, and they're saying in the hospitals there's no beds for kids with RSV, and that it's just awful. Which knock on wood, we've avoided that.
I pulled some data the other day because we're running a pilot program for a new custodial cleaning system, and I just wanted to see, are the kids healthier or sicker or what? We have more kids out in the 2 schools I looked at than we did this 2-week period last year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so tell me about the new system. I'm interested.
We are piloting in one school the OS1 team cleaning system. I don't know if you guys have heard of that or not, but
I've tried it here and it's failed miserably.
Really?
It makes sense when you look at it on paper, and I think it can work in most private industry cleaning companies, like people doing large high rises and stuff. That's how they do it. Our guys just couldn't do it.
Well, we're a month in, and I will say that we are that close to getting it going. I mean, every night it's better. Every week it's better. I would say that the cleanliness of the building is much cleaner than it was before we started the program. The staff was super excited about it. I think a month in, is kind of when everybody gets grouchy and, they're still super excited about it and they're seeing success. And so I'm hopeful. I think by the time we get to January, we'll be able to make a true determination of it. I think we've learned a lot. I will say that.
Yeah, we had a company come in and design it all for us. And you know how you make everybody a specialist.
Right.
And what we did was every 3 months, we're going to rotate them. So not everybody's doing the same job all the time. My guys went as far as filing with the Labor Relations Board that one guy said that I made him take out all the trash in the building.
Uh-huh.
Another guy says I made him clean all the bathrooms in the building. And you go in front of a magistrate who's trying to judge this, and they have no idea what we do and how it works. And it's like, yeah, but that's all you're doing is doing the bathrooms. You're not doing bathrooms, you're not doing hallways, you're not doing trash, and and it was tough to get that across. And in the
The
end,
third,
we
the
settled.
third person came in and said, "They're making me do my job."
Yeah, right, right. I've had that happen before too. But
Yeah.
Well, we're rotating every week.
every week.
So
Okay.
if you're vacuuming, you're only vacuuming for a week, and
Okay.
they seem to really like that. I would call it a success at this point. We're still fine tuning. You know, I think when we started, we knew 80% of what was going to work, and it's that 20% that is what we're fine tuning.
Yeah.
But the workloading seems to be appropriate, and we're seeing, I don't know, it's just the problems that we used to have, we're not seeing.
That's great.
And that's great because we used to zone clean, you know, everybody had one corridor or whatever. And there's a lot of it's a tough operation to manage when it's run like that, I feel like.
Yeah.
But we're only a month into the team cleaning, so we'll see once.
So are they using backpack vacuums?
Yeah.
My guys wouldn't use them because they said it makes them look like Ghostbusters.
I know.
Yeah.
Are you using the battery ones or the plugins?
No, we were using the plugins because the
one.
batteries were too heavy, they said. We tried.
Yeah, and they're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But actually they enjoy the I mean, they get tired of carrying the vacuum for 8 hours. I mean, that's different. But you're also not getting repetitive motion from, you know, the uprights. You
back
do
and
more
forth with an upright is 12 pounds back and forth, and carrying a backpack was 7 pounds on your shoulders and your body. Your upper torso is much easier on your body.
Yeah. So I think it's good. I you know, one of the things I realized after starting, and the thing I'm really passionate about is reinforcing that this is a profession. You know, the cleaners are professionals. Like they have training, and we do continuing ed with them, and I want them to feel proud of the job they do.
Yeah,
their work matters.
It matters.
It matters a lot. I think if COVID taught us one thing, and RSV and all these other things, that the work that they do can mean the difference between a healthy school and a sick school, and there's a lot to that.
And I told these guys in our many spirited conversations that I don't care if you clean walking on your hands. I just want the building clean. Let's work together. So in the end, what happened was we opened a brand new building, 410,000 square foot high school. And the custodian said, we need more help. The high school we tore down was 410,000 square feet. Exact same thing. The old high school was all carpet. The new one was all hard surface floors. So, you know, that was, you know, it led me to believe that maybe they were just picking up the papers on the carpet and not vacuuming.
Right.
And now that it's hard surface, they have to dust mop and they have to clean it. So they said, we can't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. So I brought in a company. We did team cleaning. We attempted team cleaning. They fought it tooth and nail. They didn't want to do it. So I sat down with the leaders. I had 3 head custodians, and I said, I need the building clean. How do we do that? You guys are the experts. You know how to do it. And they came up with a hybrid system where the second and third shift would clean their normal area cleaning, and the 4 guys that came in at 6 a.m. would do a team clean through the areas that the other guys didn't get assigned at night. And so they combined the 2, which I thought was genius. Yeah. And in the end, that's all I want was a clean building. I don't care how you get there. Let's figure out how to get there.
I think there's a couple of really big points right here, which is, you know, first and foremost is figuring out, realizing that you need to make changes, right? And realizing you need to change how you're doing things, and then finding the way in which you have the greatest result. Like Paul said, hey, we're gonna bring these people in, find out that it's not succeeding the way it's supposed to, and then reinventing and getting his team. And then with your encouragement and then the buy-in for your team. Seems like you got great buy-in from your team beforehand to get them on board. I think that one of the things, and we're going to get into your podcast in a second, which I'm unraveling things that I thought I knew a little bit about you, that I'm like, all right, now this is all clicking in. You know, you being the newbie, the guy that hasn't been, because look, if you were in your 50s and you were in education, Paul, correct me, if I'm wrong at any point of this. I mean, Paul's only 43, so he's got a couple more years before he gets
I
into his
wish.
50s. But if you're in the public sector in your 50s in a leadership role, you've been, especially in operations, you've most likely been battered, beaten, bruised, and bumps on your head. And you're in many cases, you're just like, you know what? We're just going to keep pushing brooms. We've been pushing brooms. We're going to keep pushing brooms. And because you're the newbie and you're coming in fresh off the streets of private sector, you have this talent, skill set, and experience that isn't tainted by the bumps, bruises, and speed bumps. And you go, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. Let's roll the dice. Let's make this change. Let's do something. And that, I see, is why you've done this podcast, not just to get an education for yourself and uncover what's going on, but also to share all the awesome stuff that you're doing that can give people some insight and ideas and go, you know what? Maybe I am battered, beaten, and bruised, but if Burke can do it and Burke's got the vision, then I should be able to as well, and think about things a little bit differently. So that's pretty cool. That's both of you guys. I've followed Paul's story for the last 20 plus years, so I do still hear stories I haven't heard before, but I am familiar with that one. I have been around since the building of the Taj Newton North.
Taj Newton,
so,
yeah. My guys wanted to use corn brooms still. It's like I couldn't get them to use microfiber. I couldn't get them to use wax applicators.
Yeah,
it was amazing how old school they wanted to stay.
Yeah.
Well, I would say too that like my superintendent. I mean, she is an extraordinary leader and very supportive of operations in our facilities, and so always wants to see us excelling and moving the needle. And so when you have energy like that behind you, it makes the job a ton of fun.
Right.
I know that everybody's not that lucky, but I am right now, so I'm going to ride the wave.
Take it. So how many custodians are under you?
We have about, depending on the day right now, it's about 65 positions.
And what's I hate to make this an age thing, but what's the breakdown in generations?
We're I would say it's pretty equally represented. Okay. We have people in their 20s up to people that are retired.
Yeah. I had 82-year-old Ernie and 21-year-old Leo and everything in between. So
I will say that the young people love the idea of the system that we want to implement. And we're very vocal about it. I think what we're experiencing, probably what everybody is experiencing, is we're short of labor and we're zone cleaning, which means now instead of their normal 1 zone, they've got 1.5 zones. And they want it to look great, so they're killing themselves. So we're hopeful over time. I mean, we have 13 school buildings, so this isn't going to be like next year all 13 are online, but we hope we can get this one really smoking this year, and then maybe next year do 3 or 4 schools at one time.
Is the one that you're implementing, is that a high use building for after hours use of events?
Yeah, all of our buildings are, but
people just using your space like crazy.
Yeah, primarily the gym. The gyms are the high use. Every night we have community basketball programs and wrestling programs and everything else that happen in the buildings, which that's a unique twist for our custodial department.
Right. Do you guys have donkey basketball?
Mm-mm.
Good. Kansas is a good state. I got a couple of pet peeves for schools that I argue with anybody that allows it. The first is donkey basketball, and if you haven't seen it, you should go find a school district that's not yours that does it, but they allow 2 teams of donkeys with people riding them to play basketball in your gymnasium, which is just it's painful to watch.
Yeah, it is.
And my other one is courtyards. I'm not getting off of it, Paul.
I know. You got a courtyard burr in your saddle.
There are thousands of courtyards in school buildings today that are underutilized, not well kept up, and they provide an amazing safe space for students. And it's an internal space. It's not them going out in the parking lot and vaping or smoking or doing any of the stuff. They're inside. It's a safe space. It's a quiet space. You can put fruit bearing trees because you don't need to worry about animals eating them. A million different things. So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I've gone down it 100 times. But those are my.
You made a comment that we're shorthanded. We're finding this to be a nationwide problem. I'm working for 4 different communities right now. None of them are staffed at the level they are. We had our conference last week, and I'm not sure if it was your talk, Josh, or who it was that asked how many. There was 70 people in the room asked how many communities have all their positions filled, and none of them did. Everyone has to go somewhere. Yeah. So what do we do? How do we solve this? Where is everybody, and why can't we get people to work?
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. So right now, we actually are full in our custodial department after lots of work, because I think we started the school year down 11 positions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here we are December, and you've filled them all.
Right. So we've done a couple of things. One of them is, depending on where you live, it may or may not work, but we posted job postings on Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did that.
Okay. Got a lot of responses, had to weed through a lot of people, but it did dramatically help because nobody goes to a school website to try to find a job.
Right. Yeah, school springs that doesn't work for us. We have
teachers do, but everybody else doesn't. So that helped a lot. And then we partnered / hired. There's an organization here it's a staffing company, focuses primarily on custodial for health centers. And those people work well in our schools too, hospital cleaners. So they work with people that it's kind of it's their last option, I will say. Like they need a job, they need to get on their feet, they want to work. We background check and drug check and all that, of course, but we've been able to pick up 3 or 4 people from them. We pay a higher hourly rate to that organization, but after 3 months, we can hire them without any additional funds being exchanged.
Oh, that's great.
And so I think we have 3 or 4 of those people, and they all want to come on and work for us. So in some ways, we can test them out for 3 months.
Yep.
And not have to.
And you're paying a fee to that company for 3 months, and then if they go full time, you don't have to pay
no fee or anything.
No.
They want these people to find jobs outside of their organization. So
is that a nationwide company or is that a regional?
No, it's a local company.
You Kansas people holding all the good ideas to yourselves.
Jeez.
Paul, you know where I was going with this, right?
Franchise it.
Yeah, my gosh, thank God.
Well, they spend a lot of time with these people. They do a lot of life skills and everything else that people need, to get back on their feet. And so that's been a phenomenal. I mean, that's, filled 3 or 4 of our positions right there. And then just by getting the word out on Facebook ads and Indeed, we've been able to get enough applicants to fill the rest of them right now. So,
wow.
But tomorrow it could change, and there's a lot of turnover in the custodial arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way we do it here is one of the communities I'm working in. We go to a custodial contractor and we say we want to bring on 2 or 3 custodians at a daily rate, which is
right.
It's way over the rate we're paying our regular guys, which causes problems to start. And then when they're good, I go to the owner and I say, I want to buy out Nancy's contract. Can I pay for her to be one of my people? And she ends up giving her a raise, and she stays with the company. So it's like we can't even pull them out. We can't even buy them, so to speak, and try and take that contract over. But we're just struggling here.
Yeah, I've been looking. That's why as soon as he said it, my ears perked up. I actually, and I might as well talk about it a little bit for a minute, Paul. Is in August I launched another company called K-12 Pros because I saw this massive gap, not just a little gap, but a massive gap in facility director roles. The leadership roles, and getting experienced facility professionals into interim roles, mentorship programs, basically filling a gap until they find a qualified candidate. Or if the number two person is someone that's younger, less experienced, this person can come in and help them out. And doing that, and August to now, there's so many other places that when I'm talking to people, it's where do you go to find the qualified help? Where do we go to get these, some playbooks and ideas and thoughts and all these different things? And then the last one, which Paul and I have talked about on more than one occasion, is, yeah, we've got the leadership role filled, but what about the support staff roles? Because there's a whole big, huge gap there of, trying to find people, and going to a company like yours that you're talking about, or the one that Paul's using, and saying, hey, we've got a network. 1% of the facility director positions in the state of Massachusetts are currently open, maybe even more.
Yeah, we aged out. We all aged out at the same time. I've been retired 4 years, and it was just a massive exit. And COVID didn't help. People that were close, that didn't plan on retiring, said, "I don't need this. I'm close enough. I can get out." And it just wiped out the whole facilities, title.
Right, and some are still. I mean, Paul's got a lot of gas left in the tank, and there's others like Paul, but many of them say, "I want to get out." Like, I want out because of COVID, or all this other stuff. They find themselves really quickly that they want to get out of what they're in, but they don't want to get out of all that's in. They want to get into. They want to stay involved. They want to see a part of something. They're still relevant. They're still skilled. They still have talent, and we can put them in places while we're trying to fill this gap, because the people that are applying. I mean, I could probably get a job as a director of facilities in a school with zero experience right now, applying and no degree or anything else. But I mean, I'd probably be a heavily considered candidate in many of these roles, because there's just nobody with any experience. I've got 25 years of experience of working with facility professionals, but not working as a facility professional. It's kind of crazy. So trying to figure out all this stuff is it's an unfigure-outable formula right now.
It's a fantastic career. If you like leadership, man, you can lead like crazy in this role.
Yeah.
If you like the nuts and bolts and figuring out problems, that's what you do every day. I mean, I just think it's a great career. You're not sitting at your desk all day if you don't want to.
And it filters down to the kids.
It does.
It filters down. I always said, I know I've known kids that were in preschool, and then to see them graduate high school. I was there long enough for that many years to see that, and it's such a great feeling. It really is.
Well, it's impact. There's very few positions that you can say that you make a massive impact in your career that can be positive, as long as you make a positive impact. Like, think about, when we talk about all those community basketball leagues, all of the events that you have, that you put on, that you host for your community. If you're in Alaska, you host funerals and wakes, because they don't have funeral homes in communities. The kids, the number of kids, like, if you calculated over the course of a 30-year career, how many kids walked your hallowed halls, and if you gave them a positive experience, how many of those kids went out into the world and made a positive difference in the world? All of a sudden you start compounding that, and you go, wow, I'm pretty important. I'm pretty darn big deal. And you are. We often it's often overlooked because of the pay, lack of recognition, appreciation, but the facility professional, custodian, all the way up to director of facilities, it's a pretty damn important job. And it needs to be recognized more. And I think COVID, that also helped, with recognizing the importance of the work that you do.
Yeah, all of a sudden everybody was looking to the facilities department and the custodial staff, because we need cleaning, we need to spray, we need to move desks, we need to spread out desks, we need more space, we need this moved. It was amazing how all of a sudden they knew who we were. We're like the Wizard of Oz. It all happens behind the curtain at night. In the morning, like our favorite comment, right, is when the teachers come back from summer vacation and they tell the custodians, wow, this place looks great. How was your vacation? It's like, why do you think it looks great? Because we've been here all summer. We didn't go to Cape Cod for 10 weeks and then come back and try to, like, it didn't magically happen.
No.
Our buildings aren't air conditioned. Our guys are working in hot buildings all through the summer here.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's fascinating when you think about all the lives you impact and then just how many dollars worth of stuff that you are directly impacting. I
Yeah.
mean, if you had to replace every building in our district, it's probably 500 million,
Yep.
yep.
$500 million worth of infrastructure that we maintain on a daily basis. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
That's you see, you're right on, and we're going to get into your podcast because this is the stuff that you need to shout from the rooftops, which is, the asset value of what you oversee, and understanding and letting the world know this. And I tell people all the time, you need to know how many windows you have, how many roofs you have, how many toilets and sinks you have, because once you start to put that into perspective, right? So if you have 200 toilets in your school district, the average household has 1.5, right? Because we're going to come up with some crazy number. It's like the average number of kids in a family household is 3 1/3. It's like, I don't know who's got the third, but I only got 2. So I lucked out on that whole thing and trying to figure that formula out. But you should know all that stuff, because when you start to know all that stuff and you know it in your head, you start to realize, oh my God, this is a lot of stuff. Because we walk through life, like Paul talks about that 410,000 square foot school building. That's a beautiful building.
It was $200 million in 2010.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's the real deal, and it's a huge responsibility, and we often overlook that because the pay isn't right. The pay scale compared to what you're managing to what you're getting is not, it's not in line. It just isn't. And then the hard fight, which you always have issues, you're always understaffed. Doesn't matter right now or anything. You've never been properly staffed. I've been in this business for 25 years. I've never talked to a client that's like, yeah, we're staffed well. Even private schools schools have this challenge. So it's just different. So
I can tell you that we have 1,927 faucets in our district.
There you go. See,
bingo.
The man knows.
So we're switching gears into your podcast, because you need to have every single one of your school guests be able to answer all that stuff just like you did, because that's important. That's important. It's often overlooked, and I tell people that all the time. And that's part of the reason why, I reached out to you. The first thing that you talked about was work order management, CMMS software, and all this stuff, which I haven't experienced. And I'm like, hey, I want to be a guest, but first of all, I want you to be a guest on mine. But having that data and that information is so vital and important. I always tell people, if you're a director of facilities and you shop in the town that you work in, you want to be prepared if a parent walks up to you and says, my son, little Billy was in the bathroom today and the toilet was clogged. And you should be able to say, pull something up on your phone and go, yeah, that toilet was clogged. We addressed it within 30 minutes. Oh, by the way, do you know we have 327 toilets in the school district and we were able to keep all of them unclogged today? Like, that stuff is what makes a difference, opposed to looking lost or pulling paper or any of that other stuff. So you're spot on. And so we're going to get to the podcast. We're not going to recognize the comment made by Eric Erdman, because all it is self-fulfilling himself is swoop, which it's just, he just needs to dip his toes in, and we got to tell him that the pool's closed. So
that's right.
Better luck next time.
Stop your swooping, Eric.
Yeah, but Bill Cooper says they give us the keys to the kingdom, and he's absolutely right. Bill's a facility director in Milford, New Hampshire. He's doing some amazing stuff up there. A great community. I was honored to actually be a part of, or just to witness their Halloween parade, which is it's a New England town like you would see in a Hallmark movie, where the kids all get dressed up on Halloween and they walk through the town square. Just a really kind of cool thing. And Bill does an awesome job. If you're not connected with him on LinkedIn, Burke, you got to check him out, because he does some really cool stuff, showing all his RFPs out there, putting it to the world. So
yeah, he has the keys to the kingdom, but he's also created that kingdom.
Yeah,
he's made that. He's put his heart and soul into it.
He's put 18 years in there over there, and he's done some phenomenal stuff. We had him on the episode. We talked about the cards and the salamanders and all of that.
Working with his staff and how some people struggle with their staff and getting things cleaned. And he said, I'll put my staff up against anybody.
Yeah.
He meant it. He meant it.
Well, he we'll get into the podcast, but the Northern New England Facility Masters Conference registration opened up, and I talked to Bill, and he's sending like his entire custodial staff for that professional development. Investing in your staff, not just in yourself, to go to these conferences, that says a lot about a human being. So hats off. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, Bill. And Erdman, stop. He's just putting posts up left and right.
He's just rattling now.
He's just rattling. I think he's probably.
We were better off when the Russian hackers were trying to get into our.
Yeah. Let's get the Russian hackers with the click codes on here and pose 10 toes in. But so Burke, let's get into this podcast for a couple minutes, because that's what started this whole thing. So sure. you made a post on one of my posts that said, something about liking the podcast and that you were starting your own, and then you launched it. And episode 1 was, I got to tell you, if episode 1 is anything that's in what you're going to do moving forward, the world's in for a great treat, not just in Kansas, but around the country, because what I've listened to 2.5 of the 3 episodes that I've launched. What I'm hearing is, just a genuine care about what you're doing, the things that you're doing, best practices, very open dialogue, and educational, informative on both sides. You're learning something, but you're also sharing something. Tell us a little bit, why did you start the podcast? What are the plans for it? I told you, I think I told you that I think you're going to be the Joe Rogan of operations and facilities podcast for education. And we're a competitor of yours. I mean, we're in the same space. And I think you're going to knock it straight out of the park with what you're doing.
Well, thanks. So, they call you the hype man, or you have that on your LinkedIn. And if you say you're hype man, that's pretty true. You've already connected me with a lot of people. So I drive 30 minutes each way to work. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I think I told you guys earlier, I listen at 1.5 speed because they talk too slow. Anyway, and I listen to a wide variety of stuff. Like I listen to a podcast about paramedics because my son's a paramedic, and I like hearing about his life and what his challenges are, all the way up to tech kind of stuff, like really geeky things. But I searched high and low, and the best facilities podcast I found was your guys's. And I wanted to do something similar. I wanted to meet other people. I wanted to really pick some, I call them trade partners, our vendors, pick their brain without it being a sales pitch, but really trying to gain their knowledge on what's important to us. And so I thought, I can't find what I want, so let's make it. And I've always kind of wanted to do a podcast, so I finally found something that I had to talk about. And it's been a ton of fun so far. I've learned from everybody I've talked to, and I've already gotten some feedback from some people that are loving it. So that's always makes you feel good as well. So,
I'm loving it. Interesting question. 3 years into your career in the public sector, you talk about interviewing vendors. How hard is it to have vendors come on and be, professionals, educators, thought leaders, which is the buzzword that I don't like, without them making it a sales pitch? Because I think you've recorded a couple that haven't been released yet. Because that's one of my biggest, I'm a vendor. Happy Thanksgiving, Bill. Keep up the great job, guys. I'm off to another meeting. Want to make sure we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks,
Bill. Same to you.
Good luck with your meeting. But how do you get those vendors? I mean, do you have a strong talk with them? Do you threaten to hit the whammy button on them and shut them down? I mean, that's something that I've talked a little bit with Paul about. We've had a couple of vendors on, but they're people that we've known, like JP. I've known JP for almost 20 years at Hilliard. But my list of vendors that I think could get out there it doesn't seem that long. So you seem to have a whole bunch.
So some of these guys I've known in my previous career. So the guys I've had on so far, I've known for quite some time. And I'm up front with them. I'm like, look, I want to spend our time learning from you. And I want you to share all your, I'm going to ask you maybe some tough questions, maybe stuff I want to know personally. And if I have the question, everybody else probably has the same question. So, but I'm like, I don't want you to sell specific to your company. I want your knowledge. And at the end, I'll let you pitch your company and how to get a hold of you. And I said, honestly, guys in my position we get sales pitches every day. I want someone that's going to walk beside me and like teach me and provide the best value for my money. And so far it's worked. But like I say, I'm kind of friends with the guys, so they might have been easier
Well,
targets.
that's all right. That's at least we know a little bit of the secret of now we know a little bit of the secret of how you were able to ramp this up so quickly, because it's hard.
It takes a lot of years to really get that close with someone and trust them. And like you said, JP is top notch. He's a real genuine good guy.
Well, he's in Florida right now, I think, or he was someplace. Well, I guess it was last week, because I was reaching out to him and I called Kenny because there was another group that wanted to do cleaning best practices, and they asked me for a company that was really dynamic, and I said JP, and I couldn't get him on the phone. I called Kenny. I said, Kenny, where is he? Is he okay? He's like, yeah, I think he's on vacation in Florida. Goes, he's not allowed to go on vacation. He's the only person I know that I can reach out to that I trust. Right. That's a vendor that will talk about custodial best practices without pushing their, latest and greatest ShamWow. So,
I will say it's a lot easier to find vendors to come on the podcast than facilities guys. So I'm gonna make my pitch. Like, if I reach out to you, or if you want to come on, everybody has something that a story they can tell, and something that we can all learn from. And it's just a couple guys having a conversation. And that's really how I want it to be. Not trying to ask questions that you don't want to talk about. There's things that we don't want to talk about because we're in the public.
Right.
But what's positive? What gets you up in the morning? What are you working on that you're excited about? How do some of these things make you feel? Like Matt Dedeke, the episode that released today, we talked about, he had the opportunity to go speak to a class, and about something. And so I tried to dive in, like, how'd that make you feel? Like, what does that mean in your job that you get that opportunity? Because that's very unique to this career.
Like, he made a comment that was something that I don't hear very often, that I loved, and I have to finish listening to the episode. But he made a comment about, you were talking about your capital planning, basically, and he says, I'm thinking about my capital plan for my employees for the next 10 years. And it was how to build my employees up to what they want to be, what I need them to be, and even to the point where you guys were talking about, hey, your replacement could be that person that you're working with, and that's not a conversation a lot of people have. What I'll say is, you and I called you cold out of the blue, 508 number. Who the heck is this guy? Left your voicemail, and you call me back that afternoon. You're like, wow, I didn't expect you to call me. I said, well, when you put your phone number out there, I'm going to call you because that's what I do. And you and I had a conversation, and it was meant to be a minute, but I got on my soapbox, and 30 minutes later, we're still talking. And one of the things that I shared with you was your presence is very, very good for someone that's I thought you were an established podcast host. You've done this for a long time. So your presence and your speaking was very good. One of the things that I think is feared with some of your audience of potential guests, facility directors, they don't get to speak enough, and so they don't have that secure and confident feeling of getting on a microphone and the world can hear us. And I think if people are listening to this that are facility directors in Kansas or wherever you might want to reach out to folks, this is a great place to get practice. And you only become an expert at something after 10,000 plus hours. I've got less than 1,000 hours in podcast recording, and I'm mediocre at best. So you can't come into this thing expecting that you're going to be, awesome and knock out the park, and make it real and genuine. And you don't do any editing, like I don't do any editing. You might cut, a couple of seconds in the opening out, but I don't do any of that stuff.
And like you said, it's just a couple guys and gals talking. We're not 60 Minutes.
No,
it's not Dan Rather showing up at your office in the morning. That's when you're going to have a bad day.
Exactly.
That type of thing. It's
so.
I don't know about you.
You called it. You asked.
I did. I asked
for it, and now we're getting all sorts of.
We're getting.
You really blew it this time. All sorts of virtual chats to get to. Gotta love it. It's amazing how quickly that happens when you just throw out there to the world
We
Why
mentioned
why
about
does this-
people hacking in. We're getting a whole list of streams here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how it was for you, but I think in the 3 years that I've been here, we have school board meetings twice a month. I think there's been 4 meetings where I have not presented
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that's just how much work we have going on and things that I need to get board approval on. So yeah, that's a lot of experience standing in front of people.
Yeah. My superintendent told me when I was working here in Watertown that she didn't like it when I came to a meeting because the school committee was more interested in what I had to say than in her budget or her curriculum. They said they sit at the edge of their seat when you talk to them because they love to hear that stuff. And then I hit them with curriculum and they all fall asleep.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Well, listen, I got to tell you, I think that this, what you're doing, I'm trying to hold to this 1 hour because I know your day is not done. It's coming up on 5 o'clock your time, and you got to go do a school check. This has been amazing. I think I've learned so much about you that I'm waiting anxiously for episodes 4 and 5 and 6 and all these other ones, and want to see amazing success for you. Before we jump off, how do people get a hold of you? How do they follow your podcast? What do they search for? And if you listen to him, just like I ask, if he's 5-star worthy, hit a 5-star, give him a review and a rating so that he can up his visibility. Because I'm a super fan already. So how do they get a hold of you, Burke?
So the best way is LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Burke Jones. The podcast name, if you search for it in wherever you listen to podcasts, is called School Facilities and Operations. And I've searched for it. I'm on all the major podcast platforms, so should be easy to find. If not, you can find the link on my LinkedIn feed, and would love to have you tune in and listen and volunteer to be a guest. I would love to have a conversation with you. So thanks a bunch for having me on, Josh.
This is great. This has really been a great episode. And it's nice to be back in the saddle again, Josh.
It is. No, this has been a long time coming. Paul and I have been all over the place, but no place together. We were together last week for MFAA, and I brought the microphone and everything, but we were just so darn busy in both different directions that we didn't have 2 minutes. But Burke, thank you again for making the time. Much success all around. I'm gonna follow along with what you're doing in Derby. I'm going to be coming out there to Kansas, hopefully for your annual facility conference. I'm fingers crossed for that. So meet you in person, but appreciate you giving us your time. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, before I go, we're doing some great stuff. Just like Burke, we're looking for some guests. If you want to be a guest, if you want to be on here, if you're a vendor that's trustworthy and like that wants to come on and can give an education and not a sales pitch, we're happy to talk to you. You just email josh@beawesome.com, and happy to help. One of the things that I've been busy with lately, which is one of the things that I call Burke about, is I've been working with a company for the last 4 months called Operations Hero. They're a startup, year and a half in, but all of the players, the CEO, the co-founder, and myself have a 25-year history of working together and work order management and CMS software. And I'm going to figure out an ad for them because they deserve to be one of our sponsors at this point, because they're employing me and paying me. And this is right in line with what we're doing. So more on that to come, but we're going to get some episodes. We got to clear out this cache of now crazy links that are popping up all over the place. Paul, don't ever bring that up again, please.
Yeah, I guess not, huh?
It's just unbelievable who listens. But that'll do it for us. As always, if you like what you hear, Eric Erdman, you put a whole lot of comments out there. We'd love to see a 5-star rating and review. We haven't seen one of those on the Be Awesome at FM podcast, so I'm calling you out. But we'd love to get your 5-star rating and review. If we haven't earned it, let us know before you hit anything else. And if you can be anything, be awesome. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.